In the summer of 2025, Real Madrid appeared ready to begin a new era. Carlo Ancelotti was gone. Xabi Alonso had arrived as one of the most admired young coaches in Europe, and a squad containing Kylian Mbappé, Vinicius Junior, Jude Bellingham and Federico Valverde looked almost unfair. Madrid had the stars, the money, and a coach who had just broken Bayern Munich's control of German football. The plan was not simply to win, it was to dominate the football world. Less than 8 months later, Alonso had been dismissed. Madrid had been eliminated from every major cup competition. Barcelona had won La Liga by beating them in El Clasico, and the dressing room was being discussed more often than the football. This is the story of the Real Madrid season that became a civil war. Alonso arrived with an enormous reputation. At Bayer Leverkusen, he had built a team that pressed together, moved together, and understood exactly what it wanted to do with the ball. Real Madrid had spent years winning through experience, freedom, and individual brilliance. Ancelotti managed personalities and trusted his stars to solve problems. Alonso wanted more structure. He demanded tactical discipline, intense training, and collective work without the ball. On paper, it was exactly the evolution Madrid needed. In practice, it meant asking some of the most powerful players in football to change the habits that had already made them champions. His first competitive assignment arrived almost immediately at the expanded Club World Cup. Madrid progressed through the tournament and defeated Borussia Dortmund to reach the semi-finals, creating the impression that the new project was already working. Then they met Paris Saint-Germain. PSG scored twice inside 9 minutes and dismantled Madrid 4-0. Alonso had barely unpacked his office, so the defeat could be excused as part of the transition. But it also exposed the problem he had been hired to solve. Madrid had famous attackers, but without coordinated pressure, the spaces behind them became enormous. Against a younger and more organized opponent, the team looked less like a machine and more like 11 expensive parts placed near each other. Alonso experimented. He wanted control in midfield and pressure from the front. That meant his attackers had to defend, his midfielders had to accept new positions, and established stars could no longer assume they would complete every match. Federico Valverde was used at right-back during an injury crisis, a role he could perform but did not necessarily want. Rodrigo's importance became uncertain. Arda Güler was given greater creative responsibility. And Vinicius, previously one of the unquestioned centers of Madrid's attack, was sometimes substituted or asked to operate inside a system built increasingly around Mbappé. For a while, the results protected the experiment. Madrid started the league strongly and remained near the top. The first Clásico of the season appeared to provide Alonso with his breakthrough. Madrid beat Barcelona 2-1 at the Bernabeu, moved 7 points clear of their rival, and finally won the kind of major match that could unite a new coach with his players. Yet the image that defined the evening was not the celebration. It was Vinicius being substituted in the 72nd minute. The Brazilian reacted with disbelief. He gestured angrily, argued as he left the pitch and walked toward the tunnel. He later returned, but the confrontation had already been broadcast around the world. A coach has the right to replace a player. A player has the right to be disappointed. At most clubs, the incident would have ended with an apology, an internal fine, and a reminder of who controlled the team. At Real Madrid, it became a referendum on power. Vinicius apologized publicly to supporters, teammates, the club, and its president. Alonso was notably absent from the written message, although reports later said the two spoke privately. More important was the club's response. Madrid did not publicly punish the player, and reports indicated that Alonso felt he had not been strongly supported. The coach could design pressing systems and training sessions, but his authority depended on the club defending his decisions. Once the squad saw that a star could challenge the manager in front of millions without serious consequences, the balance began to change. Results became less convincing. Alonso's detailed video sessions and tactical demands reportedly frustrated parts of a squad accustomed to greater freedom. If he demanded too much, the players resisted. If he reduced his demands, the team lost the identity he had been hired to create. By December, his position was being questioned, despite Madrid continuing to collect league victories. Alonso had arrived to change the culture, but Madrid's culture was beginning to change him. The promised tactical revolution became a daily negotiation with the dressing room. The Spanish Super Cup in January offered a chance to reset everything. Madrid reached another final against Barcelona. A victory could deliver Alonso's first trophy and prove that the difficult months had produced progress. Instead, Barcelona won 3-2. It was a close match, not a humiliation, and Alonso insisted his team had competed until the end. Normally, a coach hired on a 3-year contract would have returned to work and prepared for the rest of the season. Alonso never received that opportunity. The following day, Real Madrid announced that he had left by mutual agreement. The phrase was polite, the timing was brutal. Alonso had managed the first team for barely half a season. He had reached the midpoint of La Liga with 45 points, and his final match had been a narrow defeat in a cup final. But Madrid were not only judging results. The relationship between the coach, the hierarchy, and the dressing room had broken down. The man appointed to impose a new structure had discovered that at the Bernabeu, the structure often bends around the stars. Álvaro Arbeloa was promoted from the club's youth system. A former Madrid defender, loyal to the institution and familiar with its politics, he represented almost the opposite kind of appointment. Alonso had arrived with an independent football philosophy. Arbeloa arrived with a deep understanding of what Real Madrid expected a manager to be. His first match came 2 days after Alonso's departure, away against second division Albacete in the Copa del Rey. It should have been the easiest possible beginning. Instead, it became another disaster. Madrid twice recovered from going behind, but Albacete scored in the 95th minute to win 3-2. In the space of 4 days, Real Madrid had lost the Super Cup final, dismissed its coach, and been eliminated from the Copa del Rey by a team fighting in Spain's second division. Arbeloa accepted responsibility, but the defeat showed that changing the manager had not changed the team. The same defensive fragility, lack of control, and dependence on individual moments remained. There was still one competition capable of rescuing the season. Under Arbeloa, Madrid produced its most impressive European performance of the year, destroying Manchester City 5-1 on aggregate in the round of 16. Suddenly, the familiar story appeared to be returning. Domestic chaos did not matter. Madrid had reached the part of the season when the Champions League anthem seemed to transform them. Bayern Munich waited in the quarter-finals. Madrid lost the first leg 2-1 but remained close enough for another European comeback. The second leg became a 7-goal fight in Munich. Arda Güler scored a brilliant free kick, Mbappé found the net, and Madrid repeatedly dragged itself back into the tie. For a moment, another impossible escape seemed available. Then Eduardo Camavinga was sent off, and late goals from Luis Diaz and Michael Olise ended it. Bayern won 4-3 on the night and 6-4 on aggregate. Madrid's last path to a major trophy had disappeared. The final weeks brought more reports of division inside the squad. Arbeloa had improved some results but inherited the same contradiction. The club wanted tactical discipline while protecting the freedom and status of its biggest individuals. It wanted a manager with authority, but only until that authority reached the wrong player. La Liga provided the final judgment. Barcelona had pulled away, and Madrid travelled to the Camp Nou needing a victory to keep the title race alive. Instead, Barcelona scored twice in the opening 18 minutes and won 2-0. The result confirmed the championship with 3 matches remaining. Barcelona did not merely take Madrid's title, it did so by defeating Madrid directly, leaving its rival 14 points behind at the moment the trophy was secured. Madrid finished without La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League, or the Spanish Super Cup. Mbappé produced exceptional scoring numbers, but they could not disguise a second consecutive season without one of the 3 major trophies. Madrid possessed perhaps the most glamorous squad in football, yet looked less coherent than teams built with a fraction of its resources. It would be easy to blame everything on Xabi Alonso. He made questionable selections, struggled to communicate his ideas, and failed to adapt quickly enough to the personalities around him. It would also be easy to blame Vinicius, whose reaction in El Clasico became the symbol of the season. But one confrontation did not create Madrid's problems. It revealed them. Alonso wanted collective responsibility. The dressing room expected individual trust. The board wanted modern football without accepting the conflict required to create it. That is why the season feels bigger than a list of defeats. Real Madrid hired one of Europe's most exciting coaches to begin a revolution, then abandoned the revolution when it became uncomfortable. The club protected peace, but never actually found it. Alonso left, yet the arguments continued. Arbeloa offered a friendlier environment, yet the tactical problems remained. The Stars kept their influence, but finished the year without a major trophy. Real Madrid began the season believing talent would become a team once the correct coach organized it. By the end, the coach was gone, the organization had disappeared, and talent was almost all that remained. PSG exposed them, Barcelona repeatedly punished them, Albacete embarrassed them, and Bayern finally removed their last illusion. The most powerful club in football had everything required to win, except agreement over who was really in charge. And that disagreement turned a promised new era into one of the most chaotic seasons in Real Madrid's modern history.